I decided to check out a few more movies that Roger Ebert gave the rare score of 0 stars. The idea of deciding what constitutes a 0 rating is so interesting to me in the world of subjective art. If you didn't see my first video about this, check it out after this one. Jaws 4: The Revenge. The fourth and final Jaws film follows Brody's widow Ellen. Yeah, Brody died off screen in between films from a heart attack because there was no way they were getting Roy Scheider back for this crap. They decide to ditch Jaws 3D's story entirely and continue straight from 2. Not that it matters anyway, since each movie there's a big shark that gets killed at the end, and then the next film has another big shark ready to wreak havoc again. So we follow Ellen and her sons at Amity Island again, but this one is set at Christmas time. It's misleading because going in I was enjoying the Christmas atmosphere. I thought it was well lit and looked rather cozy. A Christmas shark movie could be a slight chance of pace perhaps. Good winter and holiday atmosphere goes a long way for me. And we're reintroduced to a grown-up version of Brody's youngest son, Sean. I liked him well enough at first, which turned into a real shame when I realized he was going to be the first victim of the new shark. Now we have to follow his mom, Ellen, who could have been interesting, as I thought this could be a character study of a grieving widow and mother now that she's lost both her husband and her son, but they fully squander it. It's also insane that she blames the fear of the sharks as a reason why Brody had a heart attack and died. She has a feeling that the shark is somehow holding a grudge, which is true, I guess, and that's why it went after her son, but it doesn't make any sense because canonically, isn't this the third shark the family has dealt with? It's not alluded to that this shark is the son of Bruce, so why would this shark want revenge? So anyway, after her son's death, the older son Michael comes up to Amity and convinces her to come down to the Bahamas with his family for the rest of the holidays. So we leave this unique cold setting and go back to a sunny beach vibe for the rest of the film. I don't know if it's just the script or what, but the guy who plays Michael, Lance Guest, is kind of a lousy actor and cannot handle the heavier dramatic scenes of the film. It's almost like he's trying to do a Kurt Russell thing or something, and his delivery just flat out stinks. And when you realize he's kind of the A plot and his mom is actually the B plot, you start to sink into your chair a bit. Now of course, this could just be the script he has to work with, but I still feel he's the weakest link of the bunch. And in theory, the setup could work. He's a marine biologist and he's really invested in his work, and his mother cannot handle this because she has PTSD from the shark attacks and asks him to stop. This could lead to a mother-son relationship drama and an examination of her grief and trauma like I said earlier, but instead the writers let her just mostly suffer in silence. They try to use Michael Caine's character as a way to bring these topics up to her and get her to talk about them, but really, he just explains what he believes she's feeling out loud for her and the audience. This happens several times, and you get no real sense that she's growing as a character because he's doing most, if not all, of the work. They show the shark up close more in this one, but it doesn't look nearly as big or menacing as the original shark, of course, and seeing it in broad daylight so much just feels wrong and goes against the simple rules of why a horror film works. Give us a build-up, make the creature seem ferocious. Also, you have to wonder if there's something supernatural going on that they forgot to explain or mention, like maybe the ghost of Bruce has transported itself inside this new shark, because why else would this shark swim 2,000 miles all the way down to the Bahamas? On top of that, Ellen inexplicably can sense now when there's going to be an attack, like she's Spider-Man or something, and it just seems to come out of nowhere. She herself has never seen or battled this shark, so when she decides to give herself up to the shark so it'll leave her family alone, it falls completely flat. Another issue, it has one kill at the beginning, and then there isn't another one until 20 minutes left in the movie. We go an hour and 10 minutes without anyone dying from a shark attack. You can tell they're trying to attempt some cutesy dialogue between the couples in the film, especially Michael and his wife, but it's so poorly written that it comes off strange and awkward, like, "I've always wanted to make love to an angry welder." What kind of line is that?
I've always wanted to make love to an angry welder.
The climax is so poor that they literally have to rely on intercutting scenes from the original film to give it excitement. I'm not even joking. It's really the saddest thing I've seen in a while. None of the main four in the film even die. They give Michael Caine a fake out death and leave it at that. The stakes have never been lower. But here's the thing. Yeah, it's a lousy film, but is it a 0 out of 4? Yeah, it's boring and fairly dumb, but to say it's one of the worst films of all time is always weird to me when it's a bigger controlled production like this. There's so many worse films out there I've seen that are far beyond this in quality control. The story might be lackluster and absurd, but the premise is coherent enough. You can follow the story to the end and understand what's going on. Even if the acting isn't great, the majority of the characters serve a purpose to the story. The cinematography is very basic, but it still follows a semblance of rules. It just makes me wonder what constituted a 0 to Ebert. Was it just a technical scale? Because if so, a 0 would have to have an incomprehensible plot. The cinematography would not follow the line of action, or the internal logic wouldn't make sense, and the reverse shot stuff wouldn't match up. The dialogue would have to be written at a first grade level. Even if it wasn't for technical reasons, the film would just have to be far more offensive or distasteful to justify a 0 in my opinion. So yeah, Jaws 4, a lousy movie, but quaint compared to some of the real stinkers I've seen in my day. The Doom Generation. Greg Araki has been one of my cinema blind spots that I've been self-conscious about for a while now, so I'm glad this video gave me an excuse to finally dive in. Starting the film, it immediately hits you with a heterosexual film by Greg Araki to set the tone, and I was instantly locked in. Right away, I loved the grimy and grungy punk rock aesthetic it was going for. Everything about this film oozes cool. Amy Blue is like the night mode of Cher Horowitz from Clueless, another quintessential 90s film on the exact opposite of the teen spectrum.
Wake up and smell the cappuccino, geek.
Her goofy boyfriend Jordan is fairly passive and soft, and although he's dumb, he's also the nicest and most likable character in the film, and it's actually endearing to watch him try to grapple with what seems to be his very first complex thoughts about life and perhaps who he even is. At first he seems a bit too casual towards the guy who he realizes also sleeping with his girlfriend, but then you start to realize he's struggling with feelings he can't fully comprehend and isn't really sure how to work them out. The film is rude and in your face. Everything is abrasive, absurd, and extremely crusty. It's really part of the fun and represents the mentality of a teenager who is acting out and rebelling because, you have to. There was never another choice, you know? It gives you that wild and carefree feeling as you wonder where the night might take them. I certainly miss that feeling. Sure, not to the extreme of this movie, but not having anywhere to be and just seeing what happens and rolling with it. The satirical nihilism here is hilariously over the top, and to match it, we get a series of hyper-violent moments that are so extreme that they come off cartoonish, which works especially well since it's usually played for laughs. Araki is playing with late Gen X stereotypes in a way that really works for me. It's purposely like the most abhorrent idea of what a teenager is like to the most mild-mannered 20th century Republican geezer. In my opinion, the tone and over-the-top explicit content are never taking the piss out on the audience, and it's actually not an irony-poisoned film, though it might seem that way on the surface. It's, once again, like some of the other films I've talked about in these two videos, too absurd to get angry over. The undercurrent of the film has audiences hoping and almost begging for Jordan to have the courage to be assertive. Not towards his girlfriend entirely, but also towards Xavier, who he clearly admires more than he realizes. The more the film goes on, the more you understand why he defends Xavier in different situations. The climax of the film is not something I'll spoil here, nor could I show a single frame of it without getting demonetized and possibly a full-on strike from YouTube. But I will say, it made the film for me, and it's one of those endings that turns the tone on its head and suddenly ties everything together in a way you weren't fully prepared for. I really loved it. Ebert famously said about the film, "Note carefully that I do not object to the content in this movie, but to the attitude. Araki may not have been thinking of Leopold and Loeb when he made this movie, but I was when I watched it." He's referencing two guys who murdered a 14-year-old boy in the 1920s and relating it to these characters on screen, which is absurd. The attitude he's talking about isn't exactly what's on the surface here, nor is it committing to making a definitive statement for all 90s teens. And partially, I think Ebert either didn't fully grasp the queer quote-unquote reading of this film, or he just didn't care. Not that the ending's imagery is subtle in any way, But I just have to assume there's a chance he didn't fully grasp it because, just for example, I was watching the Red Letter Media review for I Saw the TV Glow, and Mike didn't even realize the main character was trans, so, I mean, you never really know. 2 thumbs up from me, though. Pink Flamingos. This one is a bona fide trashy classic. It's probably John Waters' most celebrated film and is often something people put on in college to shock their friends. Like many of his other films, it stars the drag queen Divine and is a celebration of trash and debauchery. It's so greasy that it causes me to have fits of laughter. If you can get down with the plot pretty much being about 2 deviants being mad and upset that Divine won the award for being the filthiest person alive, you might dig it, because that's pretty much the whole premise. From there, we just really follow those 2 as they traffic babies, and then we watch Divine and Crackers lick furniture because it turns them on, and we have Divine's mom, who is obsessed with eggs, and the Eggman, who delivers eggs to her every day. It rules. And look, it is legitimately absurd and horrendous. And I totally get if it's too much for you. No judgment here. Some scenes are totally rancid. And I mean, not to spoil it, but one of the main things people remember this film for is an unsimulated sequence of a character eating dog droppings. So, you know. There's aspects that go even too far for me though. Unfortunately, there is real animal torture of a chicken, which I do think is terrible and brings down the movie a bit. And yet, despite this, the movie is still art and deserves to be designated as such. For Ebert to not give this one a rating because he says it shouldn't be considered a film but rather an object is disrespectful to the medium as a whole. I don't have a lot more to say about this one in short form, but we do have an episode of The Harbor on it if you want to hear me talk about it for an hour. Also, it's really wild that Waters' films are popular enough to be as influential as they are. I mean, Alvin the Chipmunk has seen this film.
Actually, I recently flew next to the Chipettes, and they were ladies.
Hey, don't judge me. I saw Pink Flamingos.
This is essential midnight viewing at least once for every cinephile. I Spit on Your Grave, the original, 1978. I've talked in various videos about how Ebert was no fun when it came to horror films, especially slashers. He didn't like how sleazy they are or how the violence is portrayed. I have a lot of fun with them myself, so I figured going into this film blind, this would probably be the case. Well, let me tell you, it was not fun. It was actually one of the most detestable films I've ever seen. This is a movie about a woman who goes on a solo vacation in the country to get some peace and quiet while she writes her novel. This is the only good part of the film. It almost feels like it could be a quiet character study that takes place in the heat of summer as she comes into her own artistically. Instead, she's dragged away by several locals and taken to a field and is held down so their mentally handicapped brother can assault her in order to lose his virginity. He chickens out, so the oldest guy takes his place. It's one of the most graphic and vile assault scenes I've ever seen, done in a way that I argue is to be purposefully titillating to the scum who are watching the film and having a blast. She escapes and finds herself in the woods, but then finds herself surrounded by the men again, and is assaulted again. Then she finally makes it home, and when it's apparent a third assault sequence is about to begin, is the point that I turned the film off in disgust. And that's not me being performative. I usually can't stand not finishing a movie I've already started. I was that grossed out. I skipped through the back half of the movie to see if what I thought would happen happens, and it does. She gets revenge on them and kills them one by one. But this revenge narrative does not justify what we just saw at all. To tactfully design and shoot a necessary sequence at the beginning in a way that is specifically about the trauma and horror of the event is one thing, but the first 40 minutes of this movie are extended assault scenes. 40 minutes. And we watch the actress walk around completely naked in horror in between these scenes, which then makes you think about shooting the movie and how many takes this woman must have had to do, and just having to be surrounded by likely a mostly male crew, completely naked for days on end, and it just makes it all even worse, at least for me. The director only directed this film, then 10 years later did another film that doesn't even have a hyperlink on Wikipedia, and then did a direct sequel to this in 2019, which really makes it seem like he had one idea he wanted to explore, and we all know what it was. Ebert's take is mostly justified here, and his account of what some of the patrons of the movie theater were saying to each other while hooting and hollering at the screening justifies the feelings he and I have towards it. There's only one aspect I don't agree with. He says this film is without a shred of artistic distinction. This is very, ever so slightly untrue. I think the beginning of the film is shot fairly well in a way that captures the atmospheric summer air in a way that makes you wish the film was going in a different direction entirely. The river and the trees blowing in the wind look so alluring with the soft lighting. It's such a shame the rest of the movie happens. Could not recommend a movie less. Alright, that wraps up round 2 of watching Ebert's least favorite films. If you haven't seen part 1, go check it out. And thanks for watching. Alright, that's it.
Give me more questions.
Divine, are you a lesbian?
Yes, I have done everything.